What's going on, guys? It's Paper, cut to you, and today we're going to be building on the Ascension series. This is going to be part 2, following the possibilities, because I think first you have to see some of the things that are possible so you know what kind of things you can kind of start building on. That's the best thing about seeing other people play. You can just take what they already know and then start adding to it, and that's really how you end up taking the next steps. So now that we know some of the possibilities, I want to tell you more of the specifics. We're not going to spend too much time just talking about the regular slingshots. I want to tell you more about the in-depth stuff. Like right here, this is a specific thing that I'm going to call the hidden jump. Once you hit the ground, you get an extra jump with the grappling hook. But this jump is only available while your feet are on the ground, which means if you're grappling upwards, there's a very short window for this jump to actually work. If not, you lose the ability to do it, and you're down to just a standard one jump once you've used your grapple. If you're using your grappling hook on the ground and you're skipping along, you have access to this jump a lot easier than when you're trying to grapple off something high, like when you're slingshotting. And when we start going into the slingshot maneuver, don't always think about it as at max height, max length, because you're not always going to achieve that because of level restrictions. You can see how I skinned the wall back there. In the last clip, I had just spawned in there and I had to look up. In order to get up, I used two different moves. The spinning move is because it lets you pull on the rope better than when you just pull backwards on the controller, which is the second move you saw. In my original grappling hook guide, I just did the back pull, but the corkscrew is way more efficient. So if you haven't watched that video, check that one out. It's going to tell you all of the basics, and then you can start trying to get these moves off. The height here is the most important part. I had to hang on to the hook, so it's like training wheels. It keeps you kind of pegged somewhere. It's like having a pivot foot on in basketball. It lets you just revolve yourself around it, and it gives you a lot of control, and you're going to see a little bit more of that in the video as we go on. So which jump you use is really going to depend on how you approach things. I can't tell you exactly how to do it because it's going to be specific to your scenario. I can only show you more and more examples and tell you a little bit more about what you want to watch out for. Here, the biggest factor is how far you get away from the ceiling. If you're going to be spamming your grappling hook, you have to be close enough that it doesn't take a while for the hook to get, because if it's going further out, that means that you're going to be using more of a charge in order to get a little bit of like upwards momentum, and eventually you're going to run out of charge. That's why if you're not very close to the structure you're trying to spam with your grapple, you're going to run out of it, and then you're into your second charge, but that one doesn't let you spam, which we'll cover in a moment. That first one wasn't going to hit, but this one, money. And for a bit, I'm like, when am I ever going to use this? And then I ended up ejecting here. I'm like, well, it'll be pretty useful here. And I want you all to take a look at the bottom left. That's where it shows you your charges, and the really important thing about that is you have the most control on the first charge. That's the one that actually lets you do all these kind of maneuvers here. It lets you use it on and off without having to commit to one large slingshot. However, once you get past the first charge, that's when you run into problems. That's why that one's so important to conserve. Once you get into the second one, all that stuff is over. From there, you just have one solid grapple of whatever's left of your charge. When this next guy shoots me in the back, I end up using my grappling hook to slingshot myself right towards him. And there's kind of a momentary pause on the momentum before it gets me going because I was going in the complete opposite direction. But if you actually have your momentum carrying you in the same way that you activate your grappling hook, you can use that to keep your speed up while steering with it. This is again one of those really spammy moves, and it really shows how much variability there are on where you're going to hit your hook. Like you could have hit it there, there, there. Like I decided to hit it here. Like you don't have to do it exactly like I do, you just have to be aware of how the grappling hook works. So the slingshot maneuver works by giving you max, well, you need max distance on the hook, which you're not always going to get depending on where you're standing, right? Like mid-game, I'm not going to start backing up and trying to find the right angle to get max. Like I'm just going to hit it wherever I hit it when I need to start moving. From there, the basic mechanics are to just extend the hook and add tension, which means you're just pulling away from the hook. All the moves in Titanfall seem to revolve around doing a Hadouken. It's just a half circle there or a half circle here. Strafe Ejectives is the same thing. It's just a half circle depending on where you are and where you want to go. But usually all these moves involve half circles. So you get the tension with the grappling hook by just pulling away from it, and then when it starts going forwards, that's when you give it with it. You just let yourself go with it and keep pointing towards that direction. So first you're pulling away to build that tension, and then you slingshot yourself forward, and you're always doing a Hadouken depending on which way you're looking. Now, what I love about the grappling hook is the amount of control you can get just by holding it. Like I use it as training wheels. In my more recent games, I'm like Dr. Octopus. I use it to just walk these days. It's just, I just keep adding it because it doesn't hurt me. I don't waste any of the charge when I'm that close. So, by the way, this is a quick correction. I'd already used both my jumps. This is one thing that distinguishes a good slingshot jump from a bad one. It's have you used your actual jump, not the hidden jump. You should be hitting your hidden jump on most scenarios unless you want to keep yourself parallel or you want to save it for later. The good thing about that jump is that it actually activates whenever you hit the ground. So if you can do a slingshot off of the ground. You don't need a building, guys. You can just do it flat ground and use your hidden jump to still get pretty damn good height if you want it. So we're just about to get into the section of the video where we do more corrections and we start to learn how to build onto the grappling hook. And every time I do one of these hooks, I look at it, I'm like, yeah, I probably could have hit it better, and I'll probably hit it better next time, but I don't think you want to spend too much time just learning one jump. The opening jumps are the least forgiving ones. If you don't nail the balance between height and forward momentum, then you're not going to get it. On other jumps, there's more leeway. You can afford to have more height, or if you're just going flat ground, then you're just going all speed, right? So then the height doesn't matter. This is a funny thing about console and aim assist. When two guys get together, it's a shit show. But look where I end up spawning right here. I'm like, I just want to slingshot and get right back into the action. I probably could have hit that a little bit wider, but you know, mission accomplished. We'll try that again next time. And I actually ended up having to do that jump a few more times. And I do improve it each time, but I'm also not going to be repositioning myself all that much just based on one slingshot. I need to get these moves off as soon as possible. Remember that the factor that comes into the grappling hook if you want to just use it as training wheels is keeping it in your sights, because it doesn't disengage until you let go or the charge ends, or you disengage it manually. So you see there's a lot of options for how the hook is going to go. Here's another odd one. I think I should have hit it more inside and I would have been able to get a bigger pull on myself and slingshot myself better. And these are things, again, that you're going to be building on the more that you do them. It's just something that becomes more part of your play. And right now I want some height. I want to look around. If I wanted to, I could have done the slingshot maneuver to get more speed. The slingshot, and by that I just mean that you're pulling yourself off to the side, is going to give you the most speed. But that doesn't mean you should discount all the speed that you can get from just doing a quick forward jump or just doing a diagonal jump, because it does take longer to activate the slingshot. So if you're in flat ground or in a fight, you don't want to take all that time to start pulling yourself to the left when you need to start moving now. Here's a little mini slingshot, I guess. I like this next engagement. I had to leave it in here because this is the mind games. I've already gone up against this next guy a few times. He's one of their better players, so I actually expected him to turn around and start shooting me, so I went low. Nope, okay. I know where he's going. He knows where I'm going to be, and I knew this was going to throw him off. You hear him come in, he's really surprised, but I know that it's about to run out of charge, and that's when the gig is up. Then it turns into a big panic fight for both of us. I enjoyed that engagement. This is a pullback because when you're close to something, if you go forwards, you're maybe going to run into it or you're going to stay really low. I also could have just used my hidden jump and my other jump if I happen to miss my hidden jumps. There was a lot of options. But the biggest one is, again, conserving the first charge. Make sure to keep your charge training wheels, and the hook just pretty much guides me there. This guy comes out of nowhere, and this other guy thinks he can challenge me with grenades. That was a bad idea. If this time to kill thing goes through, I heard grenades may be getting a little bit better. So this is that move because I'm pulling away, and then this lets you start slingshotting yourself towards the hook. That's the reason you end up doing that corkscrew. Here, I don't even care about having another jump. I just activate it. I'm aware that I've lost my hidden jump. I even used one of my jumps as I was jumping, which means I had no jumps left. So you have to take into account how difficult the jump you're trying to pull off is, as well as knowing if you're going to need your jumps or not. Another thing to know about the levels is that there is hidden walls. You can't just slingshot everywhere. That's where the control of the hook comes in. You need to be able to get the slingshot off in hallways. You have to know pretty much your spots. This is actually one of those things that it is going to be very specific to what spot you want to get if you want to try to get max height. For here, you're going to try to get as much height pretty much as this wall right behind you is going to allow, because if you hit it, well, then again, the gig is up. If I wanted to keep all my speed, I had to jump off the wall right away, right? That's even in one of the tool tips. Even this thing, get out of gravity starts with your grappling hook. But that doesn't mean you always want to do it. Sometimes too much speed is a hazard for you, so you have to know where you're going to be landing and how you're going to use your footing. A lot of people will slingshot with no regard for where they're going to land, and then they're going to be screwed. When you're maneuvering yourself at the top, footing is a big part. Knowing where structures are, trying to dodge all these things. That was probably lucky. I should have gotten my head smoked by that tree. But taking things like that into account is definitely going to help your game. If you're going to be moving fast, you want to know where you're going to be landing. You saw this grapple before. This is not the same clip. Somebody else is just doing the exact same thing. And the wall, again, is the restriction there. You cannot get any more lateral speed unless you get into the center, because then you have a lot of room, but then there's also a chance that you're going to get shot as you start winding up to do the slingshot. Remember, control is based on having visibility of your grappling hook line. And then it doesn't disengage. The only time it will disengage is when your charge runs out. When this guy jumps here, I'm like, whoa, I'm gonna come right back here. I have another full charge. Sure, I'm just gonna keep it in my vision and it's gonna guide me to where I wanna be. And that's the end of this video, guys. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a comment. If you didn't, make sure to leave some feedback because that's what helps me improve the channel. And you may or may not have seen it, but there is a tone hidden in this video. The first person to put the timestamp is getting a ticket for the draw that we're going to be having in the future. So again, thanks for joining me. I'm going to leave you over here with this bait. This is pretty sick. Use a jump jet there, bait him out, and finish him off. Alright, that's it for me. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.